Hello, everybody. Welcome to the channel. My name is Barry, and I've got a special guest with us today. We've got Dave. Say hello, Dave.
Hello, everybody. Barry, thank you for having me on.
Not a problem at all, Dave. Now, today's we're not really going to be talking about Halloween, although I know that we've discussed this before. Some people might talk about Halloween, which is absolutely fine. You can talk about anything you want, guys. You can even talk amongst each other as well. But
That's
what I
true.
want, yeah, exactly. So what I really want to talk about today is filmmaking, and maybe not the art of filmmaking, but the filmmaking process that what Dave would have went through and what I'm trying to go through myself. Now, most of you will know that I'm doing my own fan film. It's called Inside the House, and it's an urban legend fan film that I'm doing. And I'm kind of at the beginning of the process of just working it all out. I'm a photographer, so I know lighting techniques and I've got some of the equipment that I need. But what I really want to talk to Dave about is more than just the photography side, more than just having the equipment. It's about being able to use the equipment, lighting, etc. So we'll go through all that slowly but surely. So, Dave, I know that you've started. I watched that. I think it was a video. Was it about 13 years ago? In fact, one of your Halloween fan films that you done.
13 years ago.
Something like that.
Yeah. So for your viewers who may not know, I'm a professional voice actor. That's my day-to-day job. I've spent over 20 years in the entertainment industry, but I went to film school. That's what I wanted to do with my life. Initially, I didn't, not that I had any sort of apprehensions about doing any sort of acting. I actually really enjoyed acting and on-camera acting. I have theater experience as well. And when I left college, I sort of got into the on-camera acting. I was auditioning for commercials and all that kind of stuff. So, but I went to film school. That's what I wanted to do, was to make movies. And, but of course, you know, your life and the trajectory of your path doesn't always go the way you think it's going to go, right? And so I ended up more on the performance side than I did on sort of the behind the camera. But I still had that creative need to create, right? To make little movies and, you know, to do whatever I needed to do to just keep the creative juices flowing, as myself and Bruce like to say, and who is my best friend of 30 years and my producing partner. And so, yeah, no, you're right. Like when YouTube became a thing, in like 2005, 6, 7. I, of course, being a Halloween fan, I finally got my first, you know, real Michael Myers mask. And at that time, it was still relatively underground. Now, I mean, you know, they're selling pretty good ones from Trick or Treat Studios and, you know, whatever the case is. But 13 or 14 or 15 years ago, it was still relatively difficult to get a mask that actually looked like Michael Myers, unless you were surfing the web and getting them underground from these independent artists. And so I finally got one, and I decided to shoot a little Halloween thing. It's just me walking around in like dimly lit light, you know, banging on doors but it was cool, right? It was like a camera test, and I was all excited and things like that. And I'm certainly not the first person to do a Halloween fan film, but I was one of the first. Like there was not many online at that time. There was a couple of people kind of showing off their masks, but I was one of the first to actually put it to use in terms of, you know, any sort of narrative, I guess. And yeah, and I only did that because I love movies and I love making movies, and it was my way of scratching that movie making itch. Do you know what I mean? Even though it was just me and a camcorder in my house in dimly lit light cosplaying as Michael Myers. So yeah, and then I posted them on YouTube, and I did a bunch of them, you know, over the course of like, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I guess over the course of 2 or 3 years initially. And then the last one I did was in 2016, where I stepped it up a little bit, and just had some fun with it and tried to experiment. And some of it worked and some of it didn't. But it was really, again, just all about just kind of gaining the experience and keeping the creative juices flowing, because, like I said, I love making movies. That's what I wanted to do. So yeah, I have a lot of little Halloween things on my channel.
Well, I think one thing that you had that maybe a lot of people didn't have back then was obviously you needed the internet and stuff, but 12, 13 years ago, it was quite hard to get a good quality camera. I know that everyone uses their mobile phones these days, and even 10 years ago, people used their mobile phones, but they weren't as advanced as they are now. But when you look back on your video, because I've watched it today for this live stream, the quality of it, even back then, is a lot better than what you would see even today in some fan films that you're doing. So obviously you've used more than just a phone.
Well, yes, it wasn't, and so the smartphone didn't come around until like 2007. I think that was when the first iPhone was around. I didn't get a smartphone until like 2011. I think in 2009 I was still rocking the BlackBerry, which was a Canadian company, by the way. Just saying. But anyway, of course they're completely obsolete now. But yeah, so I wasn't using that. I wasn't using any sort of phone or digital camera, you know, thing or whatever with like 2 megapixels or whatever. No, I was using an HD camcorder that I bought from Best Buy or something like that, and with a built-in hard drive, and I think it shot like full 1080p, and it was great. But then I would put it into my video editing software, which was Sony Vegas at the time, and I, with my understanding of color correction and color timing, and I would obviously massage the look in post production and bring it out and complement what I was doing with the available lighting I was using while I was walking around my house. But I would like turn on lights, or I would get like a flashlight to create sort of some sort of light in the corner, and I would put like a little light on top of a door shining down on top of me as I walked in. So like it wasn't just me walking around. I tried to use real basic stuff in my house to create mood and to create atmosphere, and to use what I learned from being in college and just, watching movies and reading about how to make movies and all that kind of stuff in terms of crafting your lighting and crafting your shots with just the available shit that I had in my house. It's not like I had like, a 5K light I could just, pump out and put on some sort of stand. It was just regular shit that I had in my house, but I think it did the trick.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. This is a screenshot I took from Red Harvest that you done in 2013. So this shot here.
Yes. Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. 2013.
Even that, the lighting is fantastic. You see fan films today that I think they get the best of gear, they get the best of Michael Myers masks, but they don't light it right. So a $300 mask looks terrible, but you could easily get $100 mask and make it look good, all thanks to the lighting and the way you've situated it.
It's funny you say that, because that's what a lot of people don't understand, is that the reason, see independent mask makers, I'll call them, and there's a lot of them now, they will make, and as much as people still, as much as they do make versions of the sequels masks, the one that sells the most, the one that everybody wants to get their hands on, of course, is one that looks like the original one, right, from 1978. But what we have to remember is that these independent artists are, when they make their masks, they are, when they're making the mask, they are weathering the mask and shading the mask to make it look like the mask from the original. But what's funny is that when Tommy Lee Wallace made the original mask, he just spray painted it white. It was Dean Cundy's lighting. It was the lighting team and the way they crafted the shots that made it look like it was shaded that way, if you will, in the movie. But if you were to just show the mask in daylight, which there are some, BTS pictures of Nick Castle just holding the mask, it just, there's nothing special about it. It's completely white. There's no shading, there's no depth, it's just all white, right? But yeah, so to your point, it really is how you light the mask at the end of the day, is a big part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. 100%. Yeah. So like I said, when these mask makers, like you said, are making them, they're also taking it from iconic scenes. So they've got the lighting, so they're trying to shade it the way they want it. And it's great to look at when you've got it. But I've got the Trick or Treat Studios Halloween 2018 mask, and I light it the way I want it to be displayed. And people always say to me, oh, who edited your mask? Who fixed your mask up? I'm like, it's just a cheap one. I just light it the way I want it. And they're like, wow.
Exactly. And that's what I think a lot of, I mean, I don't know how many people think about this, but it's true, is that the like, if you were to order a mask from one of these independent mask makers, or you go to like a convention and you see these guys cosplaying and you see, wow, the mask looks amazing. That's not how the original mask looked in the original film. That's how it was lit to look, right? Do you know what I mean? And that's, so yeah, no, it's and I get it. Like, I get why they shade it and weather it to make it look like a scene from the movie. I get it. It's the right thing to do. But yeah, no, that's why you can take like a Trick or Treat Studios mass produced mask, which is kind of plain. And if you know how to light it, and you know how to sort of, craft that lighting, maybe with some split lighting or something, whatever, you can make it look really good, really cool. So I'm not surprised people, oh, who did your mask? Nobody. I just know how to light it. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone, Tom Ungarian, he said, who's in the background? Is that the killer from Urban Legend? That's what I kind of want to talk about just now as well. That behind me, obviously behind Dave, you've got It's Me Billy, a scene from It's Me Billy. Behind me, you've got an image of, it's not Urban Legend, actually. It's from a movie called ATM from 2012. I only used it as a promotional announcement for the fan film that I'm doing, Inside the House. Initially, I was actually going to call it the Stanley Hall Massacre.
Okay.
And I was actually scouting some areas where I could use abandoned buildings that look like Stanley Hall from Urban Legend. But it had to be safe because I'm going to have children there, like my kids. So unfortunately, I couldn't find the places that I was looking for. Two of the places that I did see were just unsafe. So I had to rewrite what I was doing, as in rewrite the synopsis of what I'm going to be doing. So it's just going to be called Inside the House. And it's taken one specific urban legend and making it this little fan film, this little mini short movie. So that's my idea. But the image in the background is just a promotional to say I'll be doing it, because I've not shot any principal photography yet. Which kind of leads me on to you as well, Dave. Like, when you do, I know that maybe not as much went into these Halloween fan films as the start of your bigger movies, like It's Me Billy. But even with your Halloween ones, did you start off by, before you shot, before you wrote anything, did you take any photographs of how you were going to do it, where you were going to do it, for promotional images, anything like that? No?
No, the Halloween stuff was just really shooting from the hip, flying by the seat of my pants, except for Halloween, the night he came back. And that was from 2016. That was the last one I did. And like I said, some things worked, some things didn't. It was really experimental to just kind of see what can work and what didn't. And there were some good, some good things in there, but it's certainly not something I would put in a portfolio now that, of course, I have, Billy. But that's not on YouTube anymore, because I had to remove it because the audio suddenly was out of sync. I don't know what happened. I don't know if anybody else has experienced that with older vids, but somebody brought it to my attention about a year or so ago. And I went back, and it wasn't just a little bit out of sync. It was like 30 seconds out of sync. Like, it's unwatchable. And I don't know what happened. I messaged YouTube. I never heard back. And I'm like, well, this feels messy to me. You know what I mean? So maybe I'll re-upload it at a later date. It's too bad because it had a lot of views, but shit happens. But that one I did because we were renting gear and we were hiring, not really hiring, we were using some friends. And but that one I did a location scout, and I went and spoke to the owner of that house sort of towards the end of the movie that we shot at. And, so there was some more things. I was getting my feet wet sort of into the process because I had to do that. It'd been a while since college, so I was trying to get back into that. But it wasn't until Billy was a completely different thing altogether.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've got another image. Sorry, this is bringing up old stuff from you, Dave.
No problem. I'm curious to know what you're going to bring up now. I feel like this is your life.
Do you remember this?
Yeah. Oh my God, no.
So there's one from 2016. I'm just kind of looking at the journey, because for every image that I'm looking at, they do change. The style changes and the quality increases as well. So this is one from the night he came back in 2016.
Correct.
Yeah, you've got Michael coming down the stairs, or is that you coming down the
No,
stairs?
that is me. Yep,
Yeah.
I played Michael in the movie. Yep.
Yeah. So, mean, going from that to that, there's not much difference, to be honest. But the location, everything, it's looking like wider angles that you're doing. Do you seem like from film to film, even if it's just the mini ones that you're doing, shooting from the hip, do you feel like you're learning every time you go?
Oh,
New
100%,
things?
100%. Like again, when I left college, I mean, I learned a lot in college, right? We actually shot on 16. I have a 16 millimeter short film I just don't have anywhere to play it. But I still have, the reel that I can hold up to the light and I can see, the individual frames of my movie. But when I left college, like I said, I got into the acting and the performing side. And so absolutely, early on when I was doing these little Halloween shorts, like I said, it was just to kind of keep the pilot light burning, and to remind myself of sort of, what to do and all that kind of stuff. And also too, which is interesting, and Bruce has talked about this, my buddy, because we grew up together as teenagers through the 90s, and we used to make home movies. And what's funny, and I said, of course, oh, well, it is a lot easier now for kids to make films. But I say that, make movie, like if you're planning on going to film school, get into making movies with your friends before you go, because one of the things that really helped us was that process. And when we got to film school, we went to two different colleges, but when we went, there was already so much that we knew just by that natural process of getting out and doing it with your friends and learning about, the camera and lighting and things like that. And just kind of like, figuring it out as you go. And then when we got to college, we were already sort of maybe a few steps ahead of some of the other kids, but absolutely. Yeah. No, for sure. The more you do, the more you're out there and the more you're doing, and the more you're paying attention, the more you're going to learn, and not get so rusty. So yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's great advice, because the director of Urban Legend is Jamie Blanks. I've actually been in contact with him. He sent me a few things to use for the fan film, which is utterly
Amazing.
amazing, absolutely
That's
amazing.
awesome.
Yeah, he started out making fan films as well. He even done a fan trailer for I Know What You Did Last Summer. Um,
Awesome.
and he posted it on YouTube as well. But that's how he got his gig for Urban Legends, because the makers of the company, I think it's Phoenix, they contacted him to see if he wanted to direct I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Right.
He was in the running for it, but they thought he was just a little bit too young, so they decided to give it to, I think it might have been, is it Danny Cannon or Jim Gillespie, something like that.
Might be the second guy.
Gillespie. I know it's something Gillespie. So
Yeah.
he lost out on that, but they gave him Urban Legend. And I thought, when I saw Urban Legend, I thought it was directed by a guy maybe in his 40s, but he was only 27 when he
It's
directed
amazing,
that.
isn't it?
27 years old, and he made a film that's made 80 odd million dollars at the worldwide box office. And that started
Spielberg
out,
was like 28 when he made Jaws.
there you go. There you go. But with Jamie Blanks, it started out just doing those fan films and the
Yeah.
fan trailers, just starting from scratch, kind of like what you've started doing yourself, and building your way up to hopefully something bigger than just the Halloween fan films, which is what you've done. Um, Before we get into the next part, Dave, I've just got
Mhm.
another.
Yeah, no, for sure. Take your time.
Yeah, we've got Happy Sanjo, who became a YouTube member. Thank you very much, Happy. Uh,
Amazing.
Thank you. Sorry, guys. I know that a lot of you guys are talking, and it's good that you're talking amongst each other as well, which is great. We've got, it's probably Darren, basically, hey, Coy.
Yeah, that's
Um,
Darren. That's that
Darren,
smug Darren.
Darren,
God, can't stand that
Darren.
guy. No.
Darren is my moderator, so if you see anything, Darren, delete it for me. um, so yeah, so going from, obviously I'm not in a position to do um, Indiegogo stuff or anything like that. I don't think I could dive in to do that at this moment in time, because you need to learn your trade first and go into it. but you transitioning from just doing your basic. In fact, here's I love this screenshot, Dave. This one.
Okay.
That's one of your latest
I
ones.
didn't see it.
Oh, I'll put it
Oh,
back up.
oh, I see it on the, there it is.
Ah,
Yes. That was from, I think that
the
was,
Boogeyman.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. That was a few years ago.
So I think that was your last one, wasn't it?
It
I'm sure.
was. Yeah.
So that was your last Halloween self-funded project.
There was no funding.
Yeah.
It was
Zero
just
budget.
me walking around my basement.
Yeah. So that's what I'll be doing inside the house. But yeah, going from that to It's Me, Billy,
Mhm.
can you talk about the process of, I know you've probably spoke about it in other channels and your own channel quite a lot, but for the people who are fans of my channel who've never seen your channel or don't know the
Mhm.
process,
Mhm.
how did you go about it? How did you rack up the courage to say to yourself, I'm going to do this and hope and pray that I'm going to get enough funding? Because I've seen a lot of people go on Indiegogo and say, I need $30,000, and then they raise $6, and then
Yeah.
and they have to walk away with a red face.
Right.
How did you feel it was going to go?
Well, we didn't know. We had no idea. It was 2019 and I had just turned 40. And, like I said, I mean, filmmaking has always been in my blood. I've always wanted to make a real go at it. Don't know if I'm going to be successful or not, but I had just turned 40 and I realized that, there are, to your point, right? There are a lot of, directors that are making big studio movies that are, young enough to be my kids now. It's like, I got 25-year-old who are, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, if I'm really going to make a go at it, I got to start doing something more than just walking around my house cosplaying as Michael Myers. They're fun, but that, I mean, I can't just, I can't live in that world. So I wanted to take it to the next level. So I approached my buddy, Bruce, who works in the film industry here in Toronto. He works for William F. White International, which is one of Canada's largest distributors of lighting and grip and camera gear in the country.
Oh,
And so when Hollywood comes up to Canada, more often than not, well, I don't say more often than not, there are competitors, but certainly one of the big companies they will go to rent their gear is White's. And I think White supplies the gear for Chucky and for Star Trek Discovery and all kinds of big shows. And so I turned to my buddy and I said, look, who has helped me on the Halloween fan films, of course, but I said, I really want to, make a real movie now. And he was like, yeah, I'm in. Like, he's like, oh, I'm in. Totally. But I didn't want to bite off more than I could chew because I thought, I knew that the level that I was going to, which isn't like, the studio Hollywood, but in terms of making a real indie horror movie, I'd never done that before. So I didn't want to bite off more than I could chew. So I thought, well, maybe I can do another fan film because the material's kind of there. This would get, it's something that's known that can get some eyeballs onto it, but I didn't want to do Halloween because as much as I love Halloween, there's a Halloween fan film coming out there's probably been 5 that have been released since we've been online. And they're different tiers. They're different. Some are really good. Some are just kids in their backyard farting around. And it's just saturated. So I didn't want to do Halloween. Didn't want to do Friday the 13th because Vincent DeSanti has that pretty much locked up. Didn't want to do A Nightmare on Elm Street because Cecil Laird's got that locked up, for which I'm a part of. And I thought, well, what could I do? And I thought, so I was watching Black Christmas one night, not for the intention of, actually doing a film. I just hadn't seen it in a while and I was watching it. And of course it gets to the ending and that ending is really great. It doesn't need a sequel. I'm the first to, admit that. But I thought, geez, what if? That's Black Christmas. There's something you don't fucking see, or hear about. And it's a Canadian movie shot in Toronto. We're Canadian from Toronto. And I thought, geez, who better to to do it than us. So I did a quick YouTube search, and I think there was one like home movie, kids kind of in your backyard type thing, but that was it. Like there wasn't anything, nothing, which isn't a surprise because it's a very niche kind of cult kind of film. And I thought, so I brought it to Bruce, the idea, and he was not really sure. He actually, I mean, we all knew about it. You can't live here and not know about it, but he actually hadn't seen the film. So I was like, well, let's watch it, and then I'll tell you my idea. I'll pitch it to you. You let me know what you think. So we watched it. He liked it. Actually, the camera operator, Bert Dunked, is it Bert Dunk? Bert Dunk, I think his name is, on that film, was in White's not too long before that, and Bruce had actually talked to him for some other project or whatever, obviously. But he was the camera operator. So when at the beginning of that movie, when Billy is climbing the trellis outside to get to the attic, the hands you see is this Bert guy. But anyway, so we watched it, and I pitched it to him, and he got it, and he thought it was great. He thought, yeah, I can see this. I can see this. So that's really kind of how it came to be. And then by the process of making the decision, okay, we're not making just a fan film here. We're making a real movie, which means we're going to go through the entire process that you would go through, whether you were making a fan film or not. So if our movie was called, Attack of the Killer Toothbrushes or whatever, we'd still be going through the same process. And we knew that. So we took it very seriously. So we utilized our connections in the industry to kind of start that process. So that's kind of how it began.
Yeah. That's a good point, because I was looking online as well. Like you said, it's just Halloween fan film after Halloween fan film, or Friday the 13th. There's a few people that have done other things, like with Dylan's New Nightmare and stuff. And I looked online myself, and I thought, no one's done an urban legend fan film. And I think the good thing about urban legend compared to other horror franchises and horror movies is urban legend's not a masterpiece. Urban legend's not the amazing film that everybody just raves about. So even if I've done something mediocre, which I don't want to do, I want to do something good.
Of course.
Even if I do something that's not amazing, it's not really disrespecting an original classic, because there is no original classic. There's just an original movie, which is
Right.
Urban Legend, So
Yeah.
no harm, no foul. And I think it's a good entry. And
Yeah.
I want to do something different so that people can go, do you know what, that was pretty good. It's not the same as what you've seen before. And that's where It's Me, Billy stands out, because not only does it look like a Hollywood movie, because it does. I know you probably try and play it down a little bit, Dave, but it does. It just looks incredible. The photography, the cinematography, the lighting, everything. And It's Me, Billy was just 100% top notch that you would see in a Hollywood movie. Even the acting in it, from the girls, from everyone, was,
Yeah, they were great.
Yeah, but they were all fantastic. There was just a really Hollywood feel to this film, and not every movie has to look like a Hollywood movie, but
No, not at all.
But you want to set the tone differently to other fan films that you've done, and I think you've utilized every penny.
Well, that's it. And to your point, and that's it, right? When you're dealing with fan films, and understandably so, it's a very saturated sector, I guess, of filmmaking. And when somebody hears fan films, and you can see it, like when we released the Freddy Krueger images for Dylan's New Nightmare, and a lot of the big sort of horror and movie publications picked it up online, you could see people, and you see it in the comments, and I get it, I understand it, right? You see people go, oh, fan film, oh, I don't give a shit, oh, it's a fan film. I totally understand. That's because the vast majority of fan films are people, kids with their friends, or adults with their friends farting around in their backyard. The production value's crap, the audio's crap, or it looks like the acting is bad. I get it. I totally understand it. And that will always be the bulk of fan films. That will always be the bulk of fan films. But there's that stigma that comes with it. And because we don't own the intellectual property, and because Cecil Laird doesn't own the intellectual property, and because Vincent DeSanti doesn't own the intellectual property, we have to market it as this a such and such fan film. We have to do that. So we are always sort of against the stigma. And so how do we pass that threshold of the fan film stigma? I mean, I've had people, reach out to me and say, I came across your film and I saw it was a fan film and I went, ugh. And then I watched it and I was like, oh, you know what I mean? So even just seeing fan film in our YouTube title is a deterrent for some people, right? Because they're like, oh, and I get it. I totally understand. So that's why we knew from the marketing right to the actual release of the movie, everything had to look and feel Hollywood, right? From our teaser trailers to our promotional images, everything. We wanted it to look professional. I mean, that's not the only thing we wanted. Obviously, we wanted it to be good, but we knew in terms of the marketing and the presentation, we had a big stigma to crack through. And I think, again, it's Black Christmas, so it's never going to get the traction that a Halloween would. But I think it has done that. I think people that have seen it, that doesn't mean you're going to like it, because that's just art, right? Some people are going to like it, some people are not going to like it. But in terms of the presentation and in terms of the quality and the hard work that we put into making a real film, I think that really shows on screen. And it's just the first part, right? It's just the first part. So there are some people that have watched it and they're like, is that it? No, that's not it. We just had to do the first part because we didn't feel that we were going to raise the money to do the whole thing. But I digress. To your point, yes, it is. It can be tricky, to get through it. But we went through all the process, like the entire, right from development to pre-production, production, and post. Making a real film. We needed to, at our age, I think we also felt that we needed to do that too, because we're in our 40s and we don't have time. I mean, we hope we can live another 40 years, of course, but we don't have time to fart around anymore. I mean, there are, like, as you point out, there are people that are 27 making big tentpole films that are being theatrically, released, making millions of dollars at, the box office, and rightly so, right? And so we're like, God, we're in our 40s. We really got to kind of, if we're going to make a fan film, it's got to be fan film in name only, basically.
Yeah, no, of course. And like you said, with the likes of Halloween fan films, instantly, if you do Halloween fan film, you're going to get 500,000 views. Whereas you do something like It's Me, Billy, it's not going to get the amount of views. But I know you probably think this yourself. You would rather a quality fan film over views for something that just is oversaturated.
For sure. It's Me, Billy at the moment has, I think, just over 52,000 views. And I have had people reach out, not a lot, because I think people get it. And I've talked about it. Some people have reached out, or even while I've been live on my channel, have said, it's got, like at the time, maybe it had like 35,000 views or something. It's only got 35,000 views. You must be really disappointed. I guess it's, it's not really. And I'd say, no. What you have to understand is that Black Christmas isn't Halloween. There are, and I say this with all due respect, of course, to all the fan filmmakers out there, but there are amateur home movie fan films, Halloween, that have like 500,000, 1 million views.
Yeah.
It's not because it's good or the production value is good. It's because of the IP. It's because of the name. It's Michael Myers. It's Halloween, right? You can make a Halloween fan film and it could rack up 30,000 views in an hour because people are interested in the subject. Yeah. When it comes to Black Christmas, it's a cult film. It never spawned any sequels until ours. It had 2 remakes in 06 and 19, which weren't I mean, now people kind of look at the 06 film a bit more favorably because of the 19 film. But when the 06 movie came out, it certainly didn't, it wasn't anything that fans were particularly happy about. So it never spawned a series. It never embedded itself into the horror pop culture zeitgeist like Halloween or Friday or Elm Street, where you had all these sequels that were always there. So it's a cult film. It's a niche film. And there's a lot of people that have seen it. It kind of goes 2 ways. People watch it. You either love it because you get it. You're like, oh, this is a creepy old horror movie. Or there's the other side of the camp where it's like, I thought it was boring. I mean, it was slow. It was boring. So you have that to fight against as well. So, we definitely did not go for the low hanging fruit when it came to Black Christmas. It was a real risk. It was a real risk that we took. Like, are we going to raise our production budget for Black Christmas? And we did.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
And you raised over what you asked for as well, didn't you?
Just a little bit, yeah. So we
Right.
asked for 60,000 Canadian, which was about 47,000 US. We ended up raising 64,000. And that was it. Like I've said on my own channel, it was one of the most humbling experiences of my life because it was the first summer of the pandemic. It was the summer of 2020. People were hoarding and trying to save because of the pandemic. The
Yeah.
fact that we were able to raise that during the pandemic was unbelievable. And it's not lost on us that, yeah, there were some people obviously that wanted to see us do Black Christmas, but really it was about us. It was about they believed in us and wanted to see us do this thing. And
Mhm.
it was very humbling.
Yeah.
One of the most amazing experiences of my life, because if it was Halloween, we probably would have raised 64,000 in the first hour, you know, but I mean, but with Black Christmas, and to be fair, we actually raised 50% of our budget in 2 days,
Yeah, I was going to
which
say
was,
that.
it was incredible. It was an
Mm.
incredible experience.
Yeah, that must make you feel confident going into not just It's Me Billy Chapter 2, but anything else you want to do in the future. Know that you've got the backing and you've got the experience and you've got the evidence and the proof that you can do it on that budget. Now, I know that that budget's not always going to be the exact same every time you want to do a fan film because yourself, you want to improve and do bigger and better things. With that, you need a bigger budget. So, how do you how would you go about budgeting for things? Because I know that you might have some things that you've already got that you don't have to buy, but would you say, right, I need this, I need that, and you price it all up and
Yes. So first things first, you have to have a script because you don't know how much your movie's going to cost until the script is done. And that doesn't mean that you can't start putting together a budget after a first draft. Depends on how many drafts you think there are going to be, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah, so you have to have a completed script, something you feel that, yeah, some things might change a little bit, like maybe we might, put that in there instead of that, whatever. But basically, the blueprint is there, and then you start breaking it down. You start going through, okay, what props do we need? Do we have this already, or do we have to, order this or have this made? And how many of these should we get? Maybe we should get a couple of them just so we have a couple. I mean, we're not going to use, I mean, obviously in the movie, there's only supposed to be one, but maybe we should buy like two or three of them in case one goes missing, one breaks, whatever. Right.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you go through the shot list and you break down each scene into shots. You have to do your shooting schedule. How many days is it going to take to shoot the movie? Where are you shooting? What is the location costs? Your crew, your actors, how much are they being paid? What is the daily rate for your crew and your actors? Craft services, is it something that, you somebody that can come out and cook? Are you going to grocery shop and have a designated cook who's going to cook 3 meals a day for everybody? Or are you going to have it catered? And then and then you got to call a catering company, or not necessarily a catering company, but a company that could do that, which is what we did. And then of course, where are you shooting? Are you shooting, are you shooting far away from your home? If you are, then you got to house everybody. You got to go put people up in motels and hotels. And how much is that going to cost? And you got to break all this down. Now, you don't have to be, if you can get down to the penny, well, great. But at the end of the day, it's really coming down to the ballpark, like almost an exact amount of what you need in order to make the movie possible. So when we asked for $64,000, it wasn't just some arbitrary number that we thought, we think we're going to need this,
Yeah.
which I think maybe some filmmakers who do again, I don't pretend to know, but I have a feeling sometimes I think maybe they do, because I've seen some Indiegogo campaigns where I'm like, that's interesting. And they will say, well, we need it for this and this and this and this. But, I'm like, well, maybe. I think maybe they just kind of throw a big number out there and just know that, well, if we raise this, we'll have enough for it all. But equipment rentals, camera rentals, right? Lighting and grip. I mean, production insurance. A lot of these fan films don't have production insurance. It's one of the things that I think they overlook. And maybe that's because they get favors to shoot in locations where it's a buddy they know, and they don't worry about it. It's your, your buddy, whatever. But if you're making a real movie and you're asking somebody to use their house for a week, or you're asking somebody to use, some location, you better have production insurance, because that covers you for if any damage to the location that you do. Well, then you're covered. If somebody gets injured on set, an actor, a crew member, you're covered. That's vitally important. And again, I understand that I'm saying a lot of things that you don't usually think about when you're making fan films. And that goes back to my earlier point where, there's a difference, right? You know what I mean? It's fan film in name only. We were making a real film and we were going through all of that process, but it's so important. I mean, we had 17, it was a small group, but between crew and cast, we had 17 people. Bruce and I are the directors, we're the writers, we're the producers. It's our film. I mean, we are taking care of these people, and we need these people to feel safe and taken care of. And if your cast and your crew feel safe and taken care of, then they are more likely and willing to work for you. You know what I mean? And because they feel acknowledged and they feel respected, and safe. Safety's number one. So that's really important. So there's a lot of things you have to think about when you're putting a budget together and breaking down, and go through a list of, the props you need, who are your actors, and again, if you have friends and they're just volunteering and they're not being paid, well, then that's something you don't have to factor into the budget. Right. But there's lots of things like that, to your point. That you have to make a list. Maybe it's a spreadsheet, where you kind of put it all down. And then if you are running an Indiegogo campaign, the budget you raise, that money is also going to either the creating of the perks or the packaging and shipping of those perks. Right. So, the money we raised, it wasn't like $64,000 all went into principal photography. You know what I mean? Some of that went into, getting the Blu-rays authored as well, and packaged and shipped, and the t-shirts and the hoodies and the scripts and the, all that stuff, which costs money too. And if you're shipping overseas, like if I'm, when I shipped the Blu-ray to you, I think the shipping was like $15 or something like that. That's just the shipping, right? And then if we're shipping to the US, it's like $8 or something like it, so you got to factor that in as well. And you can do that on an Indiegogo campaign. You set the price of the perk, and then it asks you, what you want to tally up for shipping, and is it international, is it, local, or what have you. And so you got to figure out, all that out. And you're running a business. That's what you're doing. And if you want to do it right, and if you want to give yourself the best probability of success, you got to treat it like that, So,
so much goes into thinking about doing these Indiegogo campaigns before you even actually go out there. And I think that's why myself making a smart decision by not doing anything like Indiegogo, because I'm personally nowhere near that stage. And I think there's a lot of people that are not anywhere near that stage that have tried it and failed. So that's why I think, like you said, you've got to have a really good plan. Somebody pointed out, you've already touched on this, but Evil Alex said, small IP, COVID times, still raised the money and made a banger film. It was almost a miracle made possible with the fans. And that's it. Everything you've mentioned there, you had to do during COVID, so you didn't know if A, you were going to raise the money because people were skint at the time, needing money, but B, were people going to make it there because of restrictions, etc.? How did you tackle the restrictions? Were you still within? Can't remember, when did you film it?
Well, we filmed it the end of November of 2020. It was a 7 day shoot. Let's see, we arrived on the Sunday. We didn't shoot that day. That was our travel day and arrival day. And then we shot Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and a bit of Saturday. And then we left Sunday. So it was a 6-day shoot, 7 days total. And so COVID obviously was an issue at that time. And because we were a, real movie, we had to follow the rules and procedures laid out by the Ministry of Ontario, which in regards to film and TV production. And so we had to be masked and we were taking temperature checks, and it was a closed set. So only people that were a part of the production were allowed there. One of our executive producers, Knightley Gaimo, who I actually had the opportunity to finally meet when I shot Dylan's New Nightmare, him and his dad, amazing guys. Shout out to them. He was a big supporter on Dylan's New Nightmare, so he was able to actually go and be on the set. He was one of our executive producers on It's Me, Billy. Mm-hmm. He picked up a big perk. Thank you, Knightley, again. Appreciate it. And one of that, of course, if there was no COVID, we would have invited him up, to come to the set and all that kind of stuff, because that's one of the things that you are, that you have an open invitation. Mm-hmm. But of course, we couldn't do that because of COVID. The borders were closed. I think he's in Michigan or something like that. And so instead of that, we decided to, we did a Zoom call with him for about an hour, walked around the set, introduced him to everybody. He got to see all the behind the scenes before all you guys did. And we put his photo in the movie. So when Sam, played by Victoria Miro, walks up to the fireplace to look at the photo of her grandmother, there's two other photos on the mantle. One is of my parents back in the early 80s. It's a black and white photo. And one is of this, it's kind of hard to see, but it's of this guy who's just kind of there in this photo. That's Knightley. So we got him in the movie. But yeah, there's a lot that you have to think about, when it comes to this kind of thing. And sorry, what was the question again? We were talking about
COVID, just
COVID. Correct. Yes. So, so we had to follow those procedures, and thankfully it wasn't something we were shooting in like May when things were really uncertain. By November, even like COVID had been a thing at that point for about April, May, June, July, August, like almost like 8 or 9 months at that point. So it was still uncertain. People were still, it was still very, very serious, but we sort of were in kind of a groove. And I think that's one of the reasons why we were able to go ahead and shoot. But we had to follow those procedures and make sure that everybody was safe and felt comfortable, and people got tested or vaccinated before, or whatever the case is, and we did the temperature checks. We all met up at a rendezvous point on the Sunday before we left for the 4-hour drive to Almonte, Ontario, which is where we shot the movie. And so we had everybody there, and we were all doing temperature checks to make sure that everybody was okay. And so yeah, it was tricky, but I think it was Evil Alex that sent that in, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. He's absolutely right. It was incredible what we were able to do based on everything that was working against us. In terms of I'm going to say popularity, but the lack of popularity of the IP. COVID. Like the whole thing. It was just remarkable. And again, I've said this on my channel, but I have to say it here because it's true. It's not blowing smoke up anybody's ass. The fans made it happen. We wouldn't have been able to hire the people, rent the location, and shoot the movie we did if you guys didn't step up and actually make it possible. Mm-hmm. Unbelievable.
Yeah. No, it's amazing, because I'm not a fan, or I'm not a massive fan of Black Christmas, the original. I like it, I think it's really good, but it's not a film that I watch every Christmas or anything like that. I watch other films at Christmas time, but I think with the release of It's Me, Billy, it made me appreciate Black Christmas more. And I'm probably not the only one that thinks that, because I've now got a proper sequel. I know it's a fan film, but I've got a proper sequel to Black Christmas, and it's a really nice, seamless sequel. And I'm obviously looking forward to seeing what you might do next with It's Me Chapter 2. It's me, Billy.
It's Me Chapter 2. That's right. Billy, It's Me. Well, we have It's Me, Billy, and then the sequel is Billy, It's Me. So no.
It was me all along.
That's right.
Yeah. Have you got? Oh, don't tell us anything, but have you got ideas and things you've got for Chapter 2? Anything written yet?
Oh yes. So we are like a page away from completing the script.
Oh, nice.
The script is almost done. We are hoping to we will launch our Indiegogo campaign this spring.
Hmm.
And I will have an exact date for everybody soon. And so, yeah, we're very excited to complete the story. Again, for maybe your viewers that may not know, It's Me, Billy was always designed to be the first part of a two-part story. But when you're not backed by a studio and you're doing something as relatively, under the radar as Black Christmas, we just didn't think that if we were to do the whole thing, we would have had to have asked for about $120,000.
Yeah.
And we didn't think we were going to raise that. And we were right. We were right. We wouldn't have come close. It was only in the last week of our campaign that we crossed the $60,000 threshold of what we needed. So we were correct on doing that. So we looked at we looked at the story and we saw this moment where there was a cliffhanger. And we thought, oh, this is a good moment to kind of end it, because it's going to get people talking and people, what, grandma? What? She's in the, how is this? What the heck's going on? So that's what we decided to do. And but there is the other half of that, and it picks up immediately where the first one left off. It doesn't jump, a year into the future or anything like that. It picks up right at that moment and continues on right from there. And now, of course, and what's cool about doing a chapter 2, because again, people have only seen the first part. So what's cool about doing chapter 2 is we get to complete the arcs, right? So when you look at our character of Sam, in the first part, she's sad. She's been through a lot. She's lost her mother. She thinks she's lost her grandmother. She's now lost her friends. She's going through a lot, but now, we have that opportunity to show that transition, right? That final girl arc, right? Where she's going to now, well, she has to fight back, where she ran, and it got her into some trouble, and now she's got to fight back. But there's renewed hope there now too, because her grandmother's there. So it's almost like both of them kind of lost hope, but now they found each other. And now the two of them have to work together against Billy and Agnes and find something they need to find. I won't tell you what that is, but, in order to be able to, get out and we can complete the story. So hopefully we'll be able to do it, because I think it will only, for those that might have been lukewarm on the first part because it feels unfinished, well, that is true. It's like watching the first episode of Stranger Things and then just like leaving it. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, of course, right? But we don't have Stranger Things money, so we have to do these things in stages. But I think when I'm going to be positive, when we get the chance to do chapter 2, I believe it will make chapter 1 that much stronger for people. And I think they'll be like, oh, I see the whole thing now. Wow, that's really cool. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's art. Not everybody's going to like what you do, but I think it will do that. So, yeah, very excited about it. Victoria is returning to play Sam, and Caro is returning to play Agnes. Billy is Billy. I'm just calling him Billy. Brian is returning to play the physical appearance of Billy, and then there's some other cast that we're in the middle of working on. So
That's perfect. Excellent. Well, I've got a clip. You guys have already seen this if you're subscribed to Dave's channel. If you're not subscribed to Dave's channel, I'm going to show it just now. So we will go silent for 37 seconds while I show you Dave's just a quick look. You ready? Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's on the phone?
what I love about that, not just that trailer, but the drone that you used going over the house. I've seen many fan films that use drones because they're cheaper now to use and rent, and you get the usual drone going over the trees or whatever. But
Hmm.
the way you've done that was great. Just going over the house, and it's almost like it's the angle's getting wider as it comes out. It's
Yeah, it
great.
is. It is.
You
Yeah, yeah,
know,
yeah. Yeah, I think drones are, I think a lot of fan filmmakers will use drones because, and to a certain point, it is true, it elevates their production value. So now it depends on, what the resolution is and what drone they're using or what camera they're using. But certainly, yes, I understand that. But the problem you will sometimes see with some filmmakers that are making fan films is that they will overuse drone shots. So drone shots should never be used just to use a drone shot. You know, they shouldn't be used 3,800 times in a movie for establishing shots, or I mean, if it listen, I get if it makes sense to the narrative, okay. But I see a lot of drone shots where I'm just like, yeah, this is getting a little too self-indulgent now.
Mhm.
For us, we use the drone shots at the beginning, but that was it. That was it. We just sort of use it to establish the location, the house, the environment, create a tone, a mood, and that was it. Because the rest of the movie didn't require it. It's not like we were cutting to drone shots every time we showed the house.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a lot of filmmakers that are making fan films will use it to elevate the production value, and it can do that. But just remember that less is more.
Yeah, absolutely. Use it in moderation. I've got
Yeah.
access to a drone for my film, which
Right.
I'll only be using a couple of times as well, because I have seen it used too many times, and I've seen it used the perfect amount of times as well. So I think less is more,
Yeah.
depending on what type of film you've got. I've got
Agreed.
a super chat coming now, guys. Before I read the super chat, I don't know if I've had any super chats before, if I will get any, but if I miss any, I will read them back later on. So don't worry. We've got Gary who sends in £10. Thanks very much, Gary. You've wrote, because some people were taking COVID too far by thinking it was going to lead to zombies. Do you think they will do a fictional version in a movie one day, or would it be left alone because people died of it? I think they've already done films about it, to be honest, Gary, but kind of B films. But yeah, like you said, I think because the impact it's had around the world, I don't think people should really touch that, especially just now, to be honest.
Yeah, I would give it time. Hollywood always likes to make movies on tragedies, but it depends on where the focus is. If the
Hmm.
focus is on the tragedy of the loss, like when you look at Oliver Stone's World Trade Center with Nicolas Cage, that came out in 2006. That was only 5 years after the events.
Hmm.
But you look at the narrative of the movie and where the focus is and what it's about. I think that's why it was acceptable. It wasn't about the hijackers. It wasn't about, it was about this sort of, well, these two guys, right? Or he was a firefighter, I think, that was under the rubble. Anyways, I haven't seen it in a long time, but
Yeah.
it's where the heart is. Or you look at Flight 93, right? And it's all about, the people that came together to, so I think it depends on where the focus is. Do I think there's going to be like a zombie apocalypse based on COVID? Maybe. Yeah, I could see Hollywood doing that, like eventually, maybe when like a couple, maybe like, you know, 10 years from now or whatever. But I think it depends on where the focus is. Maybe they'll make like a COVID movie, but it's really about the first responders and
Hmm.
how amazing they were and, the tragedy of it. But like all that kind of stuff, I could totally
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there was a movie came out, can't remember when it was. It was called Contagion or something like that, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
and that's a kind of like the start of a pandemic. So maybe if you're going to do a COVID style movie, maybe do the experiences of the start of a pandemic. But I certainly wouldn't, especially today, make a
Yes.
film about zombie COVID
Yeah, no,
people,
no, no.
because that's a bit too touchy, to be honest. But yeah, so what I want to do is I'm going to self promote my fan film as well here, guys.
For
So
sure.
this is a 40-second clip. It's not there's no footage. Again, I've not shot anything. I've not photographed anything. I've already posted it on my channel. But for those of you who have not seen it, this is it here. Here we go.
Those sounded like really intense.
You
I'm
never believe
excited
where,
for you.
yeah, you never believe where that audio is from. Um, there
It
was
sounds like a
a
monster hitting like the ground or something.
Well, it's very close. For
Mm.
those, I won't spoil the movie if some guys haven't seen it, but it's from the trailer or the second trailer from Barbarian, the
Okay.
Justin Long movie. There's a
Hmm.
trailer. There's a trailer that they marketed very well called Justin Long's new movie. That's what they called the
Okay.
trailer. And I was like, oh, I wonder what this is. And I clicked on it, and it's Justin Long going around. It's like from the makers of the Lego movie. I'm like, oh, must be a nice comedy. Then all of a sudden, darkness comes, and then
Right.
and then it goes do 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 do. I'm like, that sounds really good. I might use that in one of my trailers. So that's
Yeah,
where it's
that's
from.
good. That's good.
Really,
No, that's a good little teaser.
yeah, yeah. And again, I had to put down an urban legend fan film just in
Hmm.
case.
You
But
never know.
well, exactly. So moving on from It's Me Billy and It's Me Billy Chapter Two. Obviously, you've not even started It's Me Billy Chapter Two yet, but you did mention before on your channel that you hope to do original content, and you've mentioned it here as well that you want to do original movies. Do you have ideas in mind of the type of films? I'm guessing maybe horror. I don't know, but do you have any ideas in mind just now?
Yeah. So, yes. So it's Me, Billy, Chapter 2. And hopefully everybody will come out and support the Indiegogo campaign when we launch it in the spring. Um, is going to be the last fan film that I myself and Bruce, write, produce, direct. It's not necessarily the last fan film I'd be a part of. I mean, obviously, who knows what's going to happen with Dylan's New Nightmare, but certainly that I'm spearheading and that I'm in charge of, or whatever. Yes, I want to get away from the fan films. I think. Look, I think fan films are great, and I think when you're a filmmaker and you are using fan films as portfolio pieces and calling cards, they can be really beneficial.
Mhm.
And so but you don't want to live in a world of fan films for the rest of your life unless you have no desire to be like a filmmaker, or maybe you have a comfortable 9 to 5 job and you're happy or whatever, and fan films are a hobby. Well then that's fine. But for myself and Bruce, because we work in the industry, we really want to fulfill a dream. We really want to. We've both had great success in our respective sectors of the entertainment industry, and we're kind of at that age now where we're like, well, we want to, we want to make a movie, want to make movies, and really give this a real shot. And in doing that, you've eventually got to move away from the fan films and into original content. And so it's Me, Billy Chapter 2. It will be our last fan film that we do. We want to complete the story. So we have a chapter 1, a chapter 2. It's a finished narrative piece, which is a great, calling card. And then move on to original content. And we do have we're always talking about ideas. We're always tossing ideas back and forth. But there is a film that we are in development on right now, a story that we've been in development on for a while. And it is a feature film. It's a horror film. It's not a slasher movie, but it's a feature film, and it's definitely creepy and eerie. We did have some interest from a studio on this. They gave great notes on it. We're taking those notes, and we are because we submitted a treatment and they liked it and they had notes, which is good. And now we're sort of taking those notes and doing another pass of the treatment, which is very exciting. Now, will something come of it? Who knows?
Mhm.
There are, for every movie that is made, there are 5,000 movies in development and that never get made. So I
Yeah.
mean, you never know. But it was really exciting to at least have that opportunity, forge that connection, make that connection. And it was because of It's Me, Billy.
Mhm.
So really exciting to be able to at least have that opportunity, and will it go somewhere? We don't know yet. But that is something we're very excited about. And maybe it won't be with this person. Maybe it won't be with this studio. Maybe it'll be with somebody else. Who knows, right? But it's an original piece. It's an original story that we feel has a lot of commercial viability to it, especially in today's day and age. And yeah, it's very creepy and very eerie. So there's that. And then, of course, there's another feature film based on a story based on my second year of college, which is a horror movie. It's a paranormal film, but it's not like a typical cliched paranormal film. It's more mature than that, more philosophical, I guess. Elevated, I guess, is the word you would probably.
Elevated horror.
Yeah. But it's something that I do have a script, but I haven't touched it in probably like 7 or 8 years. So it's going to need like a few, not redos, but a few, run throughs, maybe with a different set of eyes or something. But it's a passion project. It's a project that I would love to do one day. And, it'd be so cool to do it. So there's that. And then Bruce has ideas as well that he's excited about. So we always have these ideas. So making the shift away from fan films into original content is something we're excited to do. And hopefully Billy Chapter 2 will be that extra thing we need in our portfolio to show and say, hey, here's what we can do with $60,000, and we have this, we'd like to do this. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Would you consider, I take it you want to bypass the Indiegogo stuff, so you'd want to go straight to a studio, or would you not mind going back to Indiegogo and saying, this is an original piece, this is what we want to do, can you help fund it?
Totally. I think no, we're not against that at all, or Kickstarter, or what have you. I think it's just when we're talking about feature film now, and we're talking about taking it to the next level. We're talking about films that are going to cost several $1 million to make. So the probability of crowdfunding an entire feature film that's going to cost let's say $7 million on Indiegogo is probably highly unlikely, especially from the following I have. I mean, it's not like I'm, Joe Rogan or something, and I got 10 million people that are tuning in every day. You know what I mean? So it's probably unlikely. So now maybe part of it, like maybe crowdfunding is a tool that's used, and maybe we crowdfund some of it that way. We get grants, maybe there's an angel investor or an executive producer that comes in. Who knows, right? There's many different ways that you can fund a film, and certain programs and things like that you can turn to. It doesn't necessarily have to be studio. The great thing, it's catch-22, right? Because the great thing about a studio is, you don't have to worry about money.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about raising money. So it's like, because that's one of the biggest, areas of concern when you are an indie filmmaker is raising money. I mean, we're about to step into that again with It's Me, Billy Chapter 2. And it's important for people to know that It's Me, Billy Chapter 2 has been announced, but it hasn't been greenlit. It will only be greenlit once the money is raised. So, for example, if our budget is 70,000 and we only raise 5,000, well, then the movie's not going to be made. We just refund everybody at that point. If we need 70,000 and we raise 61,000, well, then the movie's probably going to get made. We'll probably have to cut something, maybe axe a shooting day, or maybe there's a character we can't have, or what have you. But at that point, we'll have enough to make the movie. So that's why it's so important that people understand, that it's all you. Like when you are crowdfunding, it really is you are the people that make it possible. So with a studio, you don't have to worry about that, which is such a relief. However, there's the other side of the coin, which is you also don't necessarily have the creative control and creative freedom that you once had as an indie filmmaker.
Yeah.
So you now you're working with people who are making decisions by committee, or what have you, or and because we would be first time feature filmmakers, how much creative control we would get, who knows? It would depend on who we're working with. So we don't have to worry about money, but there might be some things we're like, oh fuck, they want us to change that.
Yeah.
Oh man, you know what I mean? So then there's a whole other headache you have to deal with potentially. So yeah, it can be tricky. It can be tricky.
Then after that, though, we could always get petitions to say, released the McRae cut.
Right.
The ones that the studio just didn't want you to see.
That's right. Yeah. Release the McRae and Dale cut. Release it, goddammit. It's 4 extra hours. No, but look, I mean, we're also at a point too where, beggars can't be choosers, right? So, if we ever find ourselves in a position where there is a studio or a production company or what have you that is willing to fund our film, is willing to take a chance on us, but there's a few little things that maybe they want us to do, unless it's like just out of principle, we're like, no, that just makes the story completely different. That changes the whole thing. No, barring any major, real kind of change, I could see myself and Bruce kind of going, okay. Okay. We can do that. Again, depending on what it is. Now, that doesn't mean we wouldn't fight back and do a bit of pushback to kind of see how much we can kind of get. But again, when you're in a position where there's money, it's like, Jesus, this is a big opportunity. This could be really huge. Maybe we should take it and so we can get this under our belt, because a lot of people will do that. It would have to be a huge, like, monumental shift in, suddenly it's no longer a horror movie, it's a comedy or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's kind of like, listen, I know you, I'm out,
Yeah.
But so you kind of have to, you look in the position you're in and how much leverage do you really have,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. That's completely understandable. I'll go into some questions that some of the guys are asking. Sebastian says, no, not that one. I'll ask that anyway. Has Dave's film been noticed by people higher up? Well, like Dave said, he's talking about other films that he's wanting to do and spoken to people there. So we'll spoke about that.
It's Me, Billy was noticed by somebody in a position with a studio. And we had great conversations with them. Really liked it. Really liked the fact that we were able to create something that looked the way it did on such a minimal budget. And so that's kind of, and that door is open. I mean, we still, that door is open, and we're continuing to work on the treatment and take his notes. But we felt that, let's also finish Billy too, because I think that's only going to help our portfolio as well. So
absolutely, yeah. We've got Blair. Oh, this is the one. Blair halfway. Can you do a Harrison Ford impression?
No, I can't. I mean, no. I mean, everybody can just go there.
That's good. That's really good. When it comes to your voice work, I take it, do you stay away from impressions? Is that a kind of cliche thing that people...
Well, impressions isn't my strong point. So voiceover is different from being an impressionist, right? Now, that doesn't mean you can't be an impressionist and do voiceover, but impressions is just like a part of voiceover. And, I think what people have to understand is that doing somebody's catchphrase isn't an impression. So, in like, I'm talking like, I know at a party you can call it an impression, but when we get to like professional voiceover, nobody would look at me. None of my peers would look at me and me doing this as an impression of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Get to the chopper. That's not an impression of Arnold Schwarzenegger. At a party, yeah, maybe, but an impression of Arnold or Bill Clinton or Ronald Reagan or Donald Trump, yes, whatever, is somebody who can talk like him for like half an hour. You close your eyes and it's if the person's in the room. That's an impression of some. Those are impressionists, and we see them. I mean, you can, there's, I forget this guy's name, but there's this guy on YouTube. He's a young guy who can talk like Arnold. I don't just mean like, I mean, like actually talk like him.
I've seen him.
He makes like, you've seen him. God, is he good? That's
so good.
That's an impression. That's an impression. And that's something that I've never, it's not that I couldn't do it. I guess I've just never really taken the time to, work on that side and hone impressions. I've never really been interested in doing impressions. I've been more interested in just doing sort of original characters and things like that. So yeah. So no, I'm not an impressionist. I mean, I can do, little things, but certainly not. Yeah.
I think he took some inspiration from, everyone knows the trailer guy, the voiceover trailer guy who
Hmm.
sadly passed away.
Yes.
And I think
Don
after
LaFontaine.
Don LaFontaine, and after he passed away, we no longer got the trailer guy. We just got musical score.
Well, yeah, it started before him. So yes, he was one of the trailer voices, something that I can do.
Mhm.
And there's a video on my channel. If you just YouTube Dave McRae trailer voice, you actually do see me doing it raw and
All right.
unedited. And it's something that I worked on when
Oh, you're lost, Dave.
I was like, I would do taped announcements. I would, oh, you lost me?
Yeah, sorry, you're breaking up. You back?
Oh, am I? I'm here.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
yeah,
back.
yeah.
I looked okay. I looked okay
Yeah.
on this end. So yeah, the trailer voice is something that I love to do.
Mhm.
And I sort of nurtured it and developed it in high school where I would do like taped announcements for my high school and all that kind of stuff. And then I did it on the college radio station where I had a radio show. And then I had developed it enough where I was really good at it. And I don't just mean like an impression of it, like I actually sound like one of those guys. And so I started to get hired for it. The very first trailer I ever did was for The Descent in 2005. And that's on YouTube. Again, if you just put Dave McRae, The Descent or whatever, it'll pop up. And I did The Descent, I did The Crazies. I did, other ones have I done a couple other. It Chapter 1, which was a big thing. That was amazing. Now again, I'm
Oh,
not the only guy that does it, but I was one of the guys that got to do an It Chapter 1 promo, which was really really cool in the trailer voice.
mhm.
And yeah, and then I got hired to do. I was hired. There's a television network here in Canada called T&E,
Yeah,
Totally Entertaining. And I was the network promo voice of that channel for about 7 or 8 years. And they had a lot of dark, creepy, paranormal type shows on that channel where they wanted me to do the trailer voice. So it was great. So, but to your point, you're right. Trailer voices, the movie trailer voice is not really a thing anymore. You'll still hear them, like you'll still hear like Ashton Smith, who's a big trailer voice guy. You'll still hear these guys on commercials, like 30-second spots on television and things like that.
yeah,
But gone are the trailer voices being used for actual movie trailers, like in the theater and all that kind of stuff. And they've been sort of shifting away from that now for, I'd say, probably close to 20 years now.
yeah. It's quite sad because I remember when I was younger, I would rent VHSs from the video store, and the rental ones had like 4 or 5 trailers at the beginning before it, and it was like Armageddon. You hear the guy saying,
Yeah, that's
"Life
right.
is short, love,"
Yes,
and
of
you don't
course.
hear that anymore. It's
You
you
don't hear it.
actually go, "Oh, that's so good." I
I some
prefer the trailer guy.
Yeah, no, sorry. I was just gonna say, I sometimes wonder maybe if it was because when the internet came around, it started to be parodied, and I wonder if the joking of it, all these sort of kind of made it seem more so that now that when you actually saw it, it was kind of funny because
Yeah,
because you saw these comedians making fun of it, all in good fun. I mean, they weren't actually making fun of it. It was just they were just being funny. But I wonder if that's kind of what started that. People are kind of finding this funny, and it's not supposed to be. So maybe we should kind of just use text, or
yeah.
something. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I was just starting to come onto the scene at that time. Like yeah, because this was like, well, I've been doing this now since 2001. So, and then The Descent was 2005. That was my first trailer, which was really cool.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Good movie to start.
it's a great movie. Oh my God, it's a great movie. Love The
Yeah,
Descent.
yeah, brilliant. And it was filmed in Scotland as well.
Was it?
Yeah,
Mm,
I think it was set in the Aka, what do you call it? The something mountains, Akapachi, blah, blah, blah.
I don't know. The Akapachi Mountains. I don't know.
Something
It's a
like that. Yeah,
great movie. I
yeah,
rented that. I rented it because I had just done, not just done, but I had done a trailer for it, a spot for it. And then it came to the video store, and I was like, "Oh, hey, that's the I
My
did." And
movie.
again, yeah, for all intents and purposes, And I was like, "Oh, hey, cool." So I took it and I rented it, and I went home, and I was like, "This is fucking great. This is a great movie." And yeah, I love The Descent. So good. Is there a sequel? If there is, I never saw it, but
There is, yeah, there is
oh,
part
okay.
two. It's the same woman, Shauna McDonald from
Oh,
Scotland.
okay, cool.
She's the main character. It's okay,
It's
but
okay.
I think the ending of The Descent is makes more sense as a one-off movie.
Right,
Whereas
right,
when
right.
you bring the sequel in, you're like, okay, it's kind of like Halloween H2O and Halloween Resurrection. They do
Gotcha.
something similar, you're like,
Gotcha.
oh,
And
okay,
listen, out of all the things we disagree with on Halloween H2O, that is something I definitely agree with.
100%. I knew you loved that film. So we've got, where are we? Yeah, here we go. Evil Alex again. He said, Barry, you have any ideas and I want to do something after your fan film? Well, yeah, I've like Dave, obviously not at the stages that I've wrote 2 stories when I was younger, and I've always kept the stories with me for years and years. I actually spoke about it on Cecil's channel, Cecil Laird, when we done our elevator pitch, and
Mm,
it's about a hitchhiker going to going out at Christmas, etc. So I've got something under my belt with that I want to kind of continue progressing the story, and I've got a kind of sci-fi horror thing that I've been writing for years as well, but I've just never really done anything with them because of work and family and stuff. So yeah,
right.
man, I think in years to come, if I do a few fan films and get my equipment and learn the basics, I think if I want to take it further, like Dave is doing, maybe in the future I would do something like that,
It's yeah. Listen, I support anybody that wants to follow a dream or just even try it or dip their toes in it. And look, I mean, I don't. I mean, I have no idea where it's going to go. I mean, I didn't know that I was going to be a voice actor when I went to college. I wanted to be a filmmaker. That's why I went. I went to film school. Now, I didn't just take film. I took radio and TV as well because you had to. Your first year was all part of the program. But I mean, and that's why we're doing this now in our 40s, is because we want to see if we have a shot at it, and I don't think I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to be the next fucking, Spielberg or anything, but I want to give it a shot. I want to see if I can. So we did Billy, we're doing part 2. Let's keep this going. Let's see where it goes,
know.
and maybe we can get an original thing done and who knows, yeah, got to do it, man.
Yeah, you're never too old. I went back to college when I was 30 to study photography,
Mm,
and I thought I'm going to be the oldest person here. Everyone's going to be 18, 19. But I got there and I wasn't. There was people in their 40s,
yeah,
50s, and 60s just
there
maybe
are.
doing it as a hobby, but I was doing it for a career.
Right.
And within that, we done videography as well. So leaving photography and videography college, I already knew the ins and outs of editing, filmmaking,
That's it.
lighting, all the basics that you need. But I think now, after leaving college and doing YouTube and stuff and getting my job that I've got just now, it's about progressing and learning as you go. So I think
That's it.
hopefully,
Oh yeah, you're always learning.
mhm,
I've learned. I mean, just doing Billy, like you can know the the theory of it all. You can know how movies are made. You can know, what the equipment's called. You can know, the different positions and what they do, and you can know the different stages of film production and the process. But until you get out there and start implementing it and making it and boots on the ground, I mean, I learned so much more just going through the process, and yeah, it's you anybody that I mean, anybody can talk about it, but you got to get boots on the ground. You got to get into it. You got to get into the weeds
yeah,
and make it happen.
yeah, yeah. We've got a. I don't think this you can answer this yet, but we've got Antonius said, "What date do you need all the money raised by?" I think they're talking about "It's Me Billy" chapter 2, I believe.
Yeah. So one of the reasons why we're launching the campaign in the spring, the last time we launched the campaign in July, but that was also because it was delayed. We were supposed to launch in the spring as well, but the reason why we're launching it in the spring is because we don't know, and you never know, we don't know how our campaign's going to do. Now, funny enough, we raised $64,000 in the summer of 2020. You had COVID and everything going on, all the uncertainty. So it feels like we shouldn't have been able to do that. It's kind of ironic that we did. However, you know, a lot of people were home and doing work from home or off of work or whatever the case is. So they were tuning in all the time. They were able to tune in, and they were able to, and it was something to do. Like being part of our campaign and seeing this through was like something to do. And I'm not saying, you know, that's the only reason why, but I'm saying that, you know, now people are back to work. Things are more expensive, right? There's inflation. You know, are we going to raise it? We don't know. And it may be more than 60,000 we need. We're not sure yet. So we feel that it's best that we run a campaign early, spring. That will run for 2 months. So let's say we launch in April. It'll run till June. And then that gives us some time over the summer, if we need to launch another one, if we don't raise all the funds that we need the first time around. Because the goal is to follow a similar path that we did in 2020, which is hopefully shoot at like the end of November, beginning of December. So, and that would, if we launch early, that gives us enough time to maybe launch a couple of campaigns if we need to. So if we need 60,000 again in our first campaign, we raise half, 30,000. Okay, well, that's a good start. Let's launch another one and maybe we can make some up. So don't know yet, but it will be when the campaign launches. It will launch for, I believe Indiegogo allows you to launch either for 1 month or 2. We will launch for 60 days. So at that moment, whatever the goal is, we have 60 days to raise it.
All right. I didn't know you had a time limit. I thought you could set your own time limit. So is that a maximum that Indiegogo will allow? 60
I
days?
think, unless something's changed in the last couple of years, I believe so. Yeah, it used to be either 30 days or 60 days. I think you might be able to run like a 2-week campaign too, or something like that. But I believe it's 30 days or 60 days. I don't think you can go beyond that. Now, here's the thing that people have to keep in mind too, is that if we do raise our budget, so we put up a campaign, it's 60 days. Okay. We're asking for $60,000. Okay. If we can raise that $60,000 before the end of that 60 days, then our campaign goes into demand. And that means that once the campaign ends, once the 60 days is over, our campaign is still active and people can still continue to contribute after the fact. So that would mean that we don't have to run a whole new campaign over again because we're in demand and we can continue to raise money. And that's always a good thing because there's always contingency. There's always things that, you know, like basically the production budget that you'll see on the campaign is the amount of money we need to make this movie in the script. But there could be some stretch goals, right? Maybe if we raise 75,000, we can add an extra shooting day and we can add an extra kill, or we can add an extra cast member, or we can have something happen. We can build something, we can build a set for something, or we, you know, whatever the case is, right? So there's always stretch goals that can really help. But the production budget is the money we need to raise the current shooting script. But if we can raise it, the campaign goes into demand, and then all you guys can continue to contribute after as well. So
perfect, excellent. We've got next question is Jamie Wilshaw said, "Is it easier to get your films on streaming than push for a studio release? Times have changed." I don't know if you mean like Dave himself or just in general.
It's a good question. I don't know a lot about, instinctually, I feel like it probably is, because there's a lot of garbage coming from the studios too, but but to get your, I think it probably is, because you can get short films on Amazon as well. And a studio is not going to release a short film. I mean, they can, but I mean, like, in terms of like wide release, right? I know there's little things they do, but in terms of like promotion, but you can have like a 30-minute short film and get it up on Amazon as an independent filmmaker. So it probably is easier. Now, if you're talking about like a feature film and getting it picked up by Netflix, I don't know. I mean, there's several different processes that people go through where that can happen, right? When you see a Netflix movie, there's that means two things, at least two things I can think of off the top of my head, right? There's the Netflix movies that Netflix finances, right? Netflix is funding it. Netflix is producing it essentially. And then there are the Netflix movies that they had nothing to do with, that they just picked up the distribution rights for. And that will happen when a movie gets released into festivals, right? So that's why a lot of these indie filmmakers will play the festival circuit, whether it's TIFF, South by Southwest, Sundance, whatever. And if it's really good, it'll generate a lot of buzz at these festivals. And these festivals will often have reps from different studios, Prime, Netflix, whatever, and it'll get picked up. And then Netflix, and then it will become a Netflix movie, but that's only because it's on Netflix and that's how they're distributing it. It's really not a Netflix movie. They didn't finance it. They had nothing to do with it. But you'll still see a Netflix film on there because they picked it up. So there's different ways, to go about Prime, Netflix, all that kind of stuff. I don't pretend to be an expert on it because I'm not. So really, like, the short answer is I don't know, but I would think that streaming is probably a little easier because of, you can get, like I said, even just indie shorts on there on your own. So
yeah, I think a prime example was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from this year. 2022. It was a different company that made it. They couldn't get it out anywhere. They couldn't get a theatrical release, and then Netflix took it on and made it their own. So it became a Netflix film, even though Netflix had nothing to do with it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly it.
Chris Baber said Appalachian. That's it. The Appalachian Mountains and the descent.
Good job, Chris.
Yeah, it was based there, but it was filmed in Scotland, or at least it was partially filmed. I think it was Dumfries and Galloway in Scotland.
Cool. That's a great movie.
Yeah. We've got Aaron Click says, Barry, we watched the movie's video on H2O that just landed today. I watched the first couple of minutes of it and then I had to come into this, but it's just it's Mike basically. You can tell in his voice that he actually loves H2O more than what he's letting on. Like he's saying that I like H2O, but here's some problems. But I'm looking into his eyes thinking,
I don't know, Mike.
Yeah, you love it, and you love what's wrong with it. I think
I've had people say that about me with Halloween 5. You love it.
Well, it's understandable not to like Halloween 5, but I just don't. I don't understand the hate for H2O, and I think we could probably do a 5-hour live stream talking about Halloween H2O.
It's true.
4.5 hours pro, half an hour cons. Yeah. Somebody said, I think Wham likes H2O as well. And there's Sebastian says, I like H2O Laurie so much. I think I've done a few H2O videos recently talking about the difference between Laurie Strode, H2O Laurie Strode, and 2018's Laurie Strode. I don't think I've heard your opinion on it, Dave. I know obviously you're not a fan of H2O, but what do you think?
Well, I don't hate H2O. Yeah, it's not like I hate H2O's crap or something like that. I just think that, I like her in that movie. I do. I mean, she has a definite arc. It's a great one-off film. I understand the love for it. I do. Like, I can intellectualize it. I can look at it. I can understand it. For a lot of people, I'm not saying you, but for a lot of people, it was their first introduction to Halloween. It might have been the first Halloween movie they ever saw in the movie theater. So there's definitely like a big, emotional, nostalgic attachment.
Oh, you're gone again, Dave.
To it. I get. Oh, I'm gone again.
Yeah. No, I heard the emotional.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back now.
I'm back. That's so weird because on my end, nothing changes.
Yeah, it just freezes.
Nothing changes.
Fine. It's fine now.
Jesus Christ. God damn freezing. Maybe I'll look. Oh, maybe because I have the stream on over here. Maybe I'll.
No, you're gone again. Maybe it's something to do with your stream.
I'll look over there. Oh yeah, I can see that. No, wait, I can see that. I'm back now.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I'm freezing.
You're back.
I think I'm freezing.
Yeah, you're back now though.
Yeah. Okay, that's so weird. Maybe it's because I'm talking about Halloween H2O.
Yeah.
That's so weird. Maybe if I just go really slow, it won't. I don't know. Everything seems to be okay. I was having that problem. I was actually having that problem with Darren and Frank though on their podcast. Maybe it's StreamYard. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So there's definitely an emotional attachment that fans have. So I understand it. I totally get it. For me, I think it's because I was already so well deep into the Halloween stuff at that point. I mean, I was 19 when it came out, and I think that I think in retrospect, watching it now, it's very much a product of its time, which a lot of people love. And for me, I'm like, it's a little dated. It's a little like, it's a little 90s, and I'm not, as you know, I'm not a fan of The Mask. I'm not a fan of seeing his eyes and all that kind of stuff. But all that aside, Laurie's arc in the movie is really good. It's a really good arc. She definitely has an arc. And that's, in some ways, that's sort of what, it's actually a good example. It's not completely identical, but that's what we're kind of looking at with Sam in It's Me, Billy, right? Now, Sam was not an alcoholic in chapter 1, but she was going through a lot, right? You know what I mean? So that's sort of, you know what I mean? Like there's that fight back, right? That Laurie has. And that's kind of now what's happening with our characters in It's Me, Billy chapter 2, is that we want to show you that transition. So no, but I think, look, as a one-off, one and done, chopping off his head, if it had ended there and it didn't go on, it is a good ending. It's a good ending for the character of Laurie and for Michael. There's just things that I don't like.
No, it's again, it's understandable. The things that you don't like about it is what the majority of people that don't like about it. So it's obviously understandable.
But it ain't no Halloween Resurrection, I'll tell you that.
No, absolutely not. No, I grew up in the era where I always loved horror films, but I think when I became a teenager and then I started watching Scream, I was your typical late 90s teen slasher horror fan. So
right.
I was the Urban Legend kid. I Know What You Did Last Summer, H2O, The Faculty, all those type of movies. That was my jam. That was,
of course. So it makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So you've got that nostalgic connection to certain movies that might be good, might be bad, might be okay, and that's my connection to H2O. I like to play on it a little bit, more than you need to. Like, I know
for sure. Well, and it's the same thing on my channel. I mean, I've been, as you know, I mean, you've been doing this as long as I have, if not, I think longer. And, I mean, I've been called everything under the, pretentious, condescending, because of how, I guess how passionately I call people's favorite Halloween movies crap. But I'm just I'm putting on a shtick, I mean, I really don't like certain movies, but I'm over exaggerating for the sake of entertainment. I mean, that's really all it is,
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. We've got Dream Villain says, "Hey Dave, hey Wolfman, would you two ever consider making a good horror movie collaboration one day, if it's ever possible?" Well, we are quite far apart, unfortunately.
We have a gigantic body of water between us, but you never know. I mean, maybe we make like a Host style horror movie or something where it's all online. Of course, that's been done. Damn it.
Yeah. But is there a horror YouTube community movie out there?
See, there's an idea right there. Horror YouTubers all online. Something happens.
There you go.
What the fuck's going on? Oh my God.
Copyright that right now, Dave.
It is. Yep. Done.
Yeah. Well, you did do, maybe this is something you can do in the future. Like I've seen you've lent your voice to some fan films in the past.
I have,
something like that we could do.
Yeah, for sure. I don't mind doing that.
Yeah, but again, Canada. Do you know? I've never been to North America, but the one place I always wanted to go was Canada and visit places like Nova Scotia, because that's New Scotland, and that's where the Scottish people went back in the day. And
well, I think that's probably, and I've never been over to Europe. I mean, my mother was born in England. So I'm half English. And she came to Canada in 1956 when she was 12. And so I literally am half English. I have roots over there. And but I've never been to Europe. I'd love to go. I'd love to go, but I just have never been. It's just one of those things, like how, you've never been over here. I mean, there is a gigantic ocean between us, and so it's not easy. But yeah, Newfoundland and Nova Scotia are beautiful. Come in the summer though. Don't go in the winter. Come in the summer. But I think, because millions of years ago, or billions of years ago, when they say that, of course, the land was together, right? Like it was like actually, where Europe is and where North America is, at one point we were together, and then we separate. I don't know how many billions of years ago we separated. There's a word for this. They
Eurasia.
Called it something. There's something like that. But anyway, we separated. But I think that's probably why a lot of Scotland and Ireland, a lot of the coastal regions and things like that, look almost identical to the coastal regions of like Newfoundland and Nova Scotia, because at one point they were together, right? Like it's the same, you know what I mean? Because yeah, there's certain I've never been out. To be fair, I've actually never been out to Newfoundland, but when you go out there, and I've seen photos, I know people have, like, yeah, in certain areas, you're like, it looks like you're in like Scotland or something. You know what I mean? It's crazy, but yeah, it's beautiful.
Did your mum speak with an English accent?
She did, yes. So now, when she came to Canada, yes, she did. As soon as she came to Canada when she was 12, she did have an English accent, and she used to tell me that when she's both my parents have since passed, but when my mom, when I came into existence in 1979, and when I grew up, my mom's accent was there. In certain words, you could kind of hear it, but in my mind anyway, it really wasn't there anymore. And she told me that years ago when she came to Canada, she felt that the teachers would always ask her to stand up and read because they wanted to hear her accent. So she made a conscious effort to get rid of her accent. You know what I mean? To work on sort of getting rid of it. Now, I don't think she got rid of it completely, but certainly if you were to meet my mom when she was alive, I didn't hear a British accent. Like certain words, maybe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's certain words I'd be like, oh, that sounds like that sounds a little British. But overall, yeah, but I've heard audio tapes. My dad has some, or my dad did have some, I think I have them now, actually, audio tapes that he would record from like the 70s or something, you know what I mean? Or the 60s. And you can hear my mom on the tape, and she sounds very British, very British. So yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, that's cool. My uncle lives in Florida. He's lived there for over 40 years, maybe 45 years. And he would visit us sometimes in Scotland. But when he first came over back to the UK, he just sounded Glaswegian from Scotland.
Right.
But as the time went by, he came over in the mid-90s, I think it was, and he had an American accent. And we're like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, but he can change it though. Like he can consciously go back to like a Scottish accent. We've got, I don't know if you've ever heard of these. Have you heard of potato scones?
No, unless it's known by another name here. Oh, I've heard of scones. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, they're called potato scones in Scotland, but we say totty scones. That's the way we pronounce it, totty scones. Okay. So my uncle would come over, and he would literally, if there's something that was made in Scotland, he doesn't have an Americanized way of saying it. So if he's in the US, he'll talk to his American friends, and he'd say, hey everybody, my name's Michael and I like totty scones. And you're like, oh, you go from American to Scottish just like that because of the word.
Right. I wonder, what's funny is that I wish she was alive so I could ask her this. I wonder if my mom could have dipped into it on will. I don't know. I mean, she was, I don't know, but that's interesting. Yeah, because I wonder if she had gone back, would she have maybe like within inside of a week or something? Because she used to go back. I mean, she'd been back there a number of times for different reasons. I wonder if she had stayed there for like a week or a month, if she just would have naturally, probably actually, if she was around people that had that accent, probably. Now I have an uncle, my mom's brother, I have two uncles actually that are my mom's brothers. My uncle Doug, who lives here in Canada, he doesn't have his accent anymore. You'd never know. He even has. I've never heard him say a word where I've been like, oh, that kind of sounds. Where my mom, you kind of did. He sounds very North American. And but my uncle Graham, who's my other mother's brother, when he came over, he was a kid as well, but he actually moved back to Europe, I think in the 60s or something, when he was old enough to just kind of go back. And he's lived in Italy now for, well, 50 something years, but he still has his British accent. But he can also speak 4 different languages. He can speak Italian, German, because his wife is German, English, obviously, and I think a little bit of Arabic or whatever that he had to pick up because of his business. But yeah, like he's an English speaking 70 whatever old he is right now in Italy. So I'd love to go there though. Yeah. I've never been.
I'm going next year. I'm going to go to Sicily next year.
Very cool. I don't know where he lives. I think he's an hour outside of Rome, but it's very cool.
Yeah, I've been before. I went to Milan 15 years ago or so. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah, it looks beautiful over there. God.
Yeah, we've got a super chat come in from Eddie Chase, $2. Thanks very much, Eddie. He's wrote, worst film, Freddy's dead, Jason goes to hell, Halloween ends.
Oh, you're gonna get Barry going. You're gonna get him going.
No. I think that's the main topic right now. Even if I don't talk about Halloween, anything that I post on my YouTube channel, somebody will say to me, "You know nothing because you liked Halloween Ends."
Well, it's funny. I had a comment from somebody not too long ago on one of my, because obviously the Halloween season's over, Halloween's over. So, I'm trying to talk about other things on my channel. And obviously we're gearing up for the big Billy thing. And Dylan's New Nightmare obviously is, on the horizon. And somebody left a comment on one of my recent Halloween Ends videos and was like, said something like, I miss these days. I wish we could go back to them. And I'm sitting there thinking, it was 2 months ago. What do you mean you miss these days? You miss these days? It was literally just 2 months ago. What are you talking about? What's going on? God. Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, a lot of the Halloween fans just everything, anything. Listen, I would love to talk about Halloween. I mean, I would talk Halloween till the cows came home if there was more new information to talk about.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
There's nothing new to talk about right now. There will be. Don't worry. There will be eventually. There will be.
Yeah, there's only so much you can talk about, only so much you can dissect before you feel like you're annoyed with yourself. Saying,
yes, of course.
I've said this before. I've said this again and again, and I feel like you're just doing it for the viewers. So yeah, I'll obviously still release Halloween content. There's always something to talk about, but try and release it in moderation, at least until October.
Yeah. Well, and it's good to miss it too. You know what I mean? Like I'm of the mindset, listen, we talked a lot about Halloween. We just had Halloween Ends, which was divisive. Okay. But let's kind of pack away from it so we can miss it. So we can bring it out again when we want to talk about it again. You know what I mean? But yeah, we don't want to beat a dead horse. Jesus. Yeah.
Well, one thing we will do eventually is we do this Hallow stream thing on Lee's channel. So maybe now that the dust is settled with Halloween Ends, we'll maybe try and get another Hallow stream going. Maybe the finale of Halloween Ends that we can.
That would be fun. Yeah. I think Lee wants to do something soon. So yeah, totally. That'd be. I mean, we might as well wrap it up. We've been very good with all these Hallow streams we've been doing over the years. So yeah, it'll be fun to and we haven't done it yet on our thoughts. Kind of get everybody's thoughts on it. So that'll be fun.
Exactly. I think that's one of the big questions that I get asked, like when you're doing the Hallow stream, so we can know your thoughts. I think a lot of people do want to know our thoughts because it is so divisive, and anyone who says they like the movie is shot down completely. So I think it'd be quite fun to see our thoughts. I don't think any of us, as far as I'm aware, I don't think any of us downright hated the movie or called it the worst movie of all time. So we might get a lot of hate for that because we're supposed to say it's the worst movie ever made. So
yeah, there's it's because fandom lacks nuance, right? So and if you praise something that if you praise something, or if you say you like something in a movie that you don't like overall, that means that you like the movie or something. It's like no, it's not how it works. It's not how it works.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I
just
get
want you to. Yeah. Well, I got calls to, I got called a shill because people wanted me to go on my channel and rip Halloween Ends a new one. And I was honest. I said, listen, I didn't hate the movie. I said, I didn't like the movie either. So I feel it's a complicated relationship I have with it. I think I hated more. I say hated, I'm using that term,
yeah,
I disliked more than I liked. But it's a weird experience. So I went into why, and I felt I gave a very fair, because that's what you're supposed to do. It's fucking shit is not, that doesn't mean anything to me. That's not a review. I can't take you seriously if you can't tell me why. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And I think the world of fandom is there's too many of these black and white 10-0 people that it's all part of the groupthink fandom that we're a part of. And I watched the movie, I walked out and I thought, this is weird.
yeah.
So I'm like, I need to talk about this, and I gave an honest assessment of it. So
Yeah, yeah, I heard your chat about it. I heard you talking about Corey Cunningham and even Rohan Campbell getting his backlash and all that stuff. So
it's disgusting. It's
it
awful.
yeah, it grew arms and legs. I get told yesterday that I'm a Halloween fanboy for liking Halloween Ends. I'm like, well, I'm not the one that's angry because I didn't get what I want. I also didn't get what I want. I didn't get the finale that I was expecting or wanting, but I still have to, as a reviewer myself, I have to look at the pros and the cons. Yes, there's a lot of bad things, but yes, there's a lot of good things, and you have to weigh it up, because when you're looking at movies, like say people say that, oh, it's the worst film of the year. Well, technically, it's not the worst film of the year. You may have not enjoyed the film, but if you're trying to break it down, was the cinematography good? Yes. Was the acting good? Yes. Was the lighting good? Blah blah blah. So there's a lot of pros that automatically takes it away from being the worst film of the year. I don't know if you've seen this one, but Jeepers Creepers Reborn. Now,
I haven't, but I've heard bad things.
yeah, so if you're comparing that to Halloween Ends, you're just like
No.
The only way you would compare them is because you're just angry that you never got what you wanted in Halloween Ends.
Correct. And people, and again, it's because the world of fandom, and it's not just in fandom, it's in politics, it's in sports, it is a group think confirmation bias. And it's not that I'm not guilty of it. I mean, we all want to have friends and be a part of groups and teams and associate with with people that share our love of things.
Mhm.
The problem is if that's all we're doing, and then we're not being challenged, and we're not and I think what ends up happening is people, they come to my channel or they come to your channel or they come somewhere else, and if we don't say we hated something that the vast majority of people are saying they hate, then somehow we're not being truthful. I mean, listen, I've said it, I'm sure you've heard me say it. I'm an unabashed Avatar fan. I love Avatar. Love it.
Mhm.
I think it's great. I love the Way of Water. I think it's great. And I know that's not the cool thing to say. And I don't give a fuck. I don't give a shit if it's not the cool thing to say. I liked it. You want to know the truth of how I feel? I liked it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the truth. That's
Mhm.
the truth. And if I told you I hated it, then I'd be lying to you.
Yeah.
So and it's the same with all the Halloween movies. I was honest with how I felt about 18 Kills and Ends.
Yeah.
It's a strange trilogy to me because there's a lot of good in there and there's a lot of things that don't work. So
Mhm.
to me. So, but if somebody feels differently, well, then that's great. That's all that matters, right? That's
Yeah.
all that matters. But are there people on YouTube that will cater to a certain narrative for views and for clicks? And are there people online that are afraid to, tell you how they really feel because they've developed an identity around hating? Yes, of course. And they're usually much larger channels than ours. And they, because they're making, it's their living. They make them, it's how they make their living, and they've created an identity. And all you have to do is just go to the channel and look at the catalog of vids. And it's all about, it's all negative in the sense of it's all about hating on this, or look what Kathleen Kennedy did here, or look at this, or look at the, it's never about what they like. It's about what they don't like.
Yeah.
And usually when you see that a lot, then yes, they've created an identity around that. There's a narrative. And even if they liked something, one of two things is going to happen. They're either not going to tell you they liked it, they're going to fake it and tell you they hated it because that's what you're expecting them to say, and they need to please their viewers and all the people that are watching, or they're going to say they liked it, but in a passive aggressive sort of way, because the truth really is they liked it, but they're going to kind of go, it wasn't bad. It was okay. It wasn't great or anything. I mean, don't get me wrong. It wasn't fucking amazing. But it was kind of like, and you'll see that a lot because deep down inside, they kind of want to say, I actually kind of really liked it.
Yeah.
But they're afraid that people are going to, you know what I mean? So it's not black and white. There are people that do that. Yes. But, on my channel or your channel, and I think I would like to think everybody's, channel in our space, we're going to tell you how we feel, and, if you like it, great. If you don't, that's okay. That's all right.
Yeah.
But it's not because we're shilling for Blumhouse and getting checks.
Yeah. Well, I've been told that lots of times. Yeah. I've been saying
same.
you're loving it because you're getting money from it. I'm like, what?
Same.
No.
People have to understand that, in order to make a living on YouTube, you have to be getting a lot more views than I mean, like you look at Cody Leach, right? Now I only speak for myself, but he's somebody that left his job. But look how hard he works. Look how many videos he's uploading and how many views he gets and all this stuff. He's working really hard, you know what I mean, to make a living as a YouTuber. And I think it's fucking fantastic. Mm-hmm. But if you look at my channel, I mean, it's not my full-time job, and I'll get like 2,000 views in a video. If I'm talking Halloween, it might be 5,000 or 6,000 views. Or I'm not making a living from that, folks. It doesn't happen that way. You know what I mean?
No, it's the same. Yeah, if you're going to be dedicated to it, if you feel like you're starting to make,
you got to be all in.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something I'm never going to be able to do because I've got my own job and I've got a family and stuff.
You got a family, exactly. Totally understandable.
Yeah. Well, we've got David James sends in $79.99 Czar. I think Dave is from Africa, so
very cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
He's been a patron of mine for a while. He didn't write anything there, but he wrote something here. He said, is Alien/Aliens horror movies or sci-fi first? Any thoughts on Alien Romulus that starts filming in February? Well, first of all, I didn't know they were filming a new Alien film. And I think it's a bit of both horror and sci-fi. Yeah,
this is an interesting... Oh, boy. This is not... See, here's a topic that, a lot of people probably are going to be like, wah! But is Alien sci-fi or horror? Okay, well, obviously, I think two subgenres can collide, or two genres can meld together. I do believe that. I think Alien, it's horror sci-fi. I think that's fine because I think it's always been that. I think Alien has always been horror sci-fi.
Yeah.
And I could see back in the day walking into a video store and walking, into the horror section and seeing it perhaps. I guess I sort of draw a line, and I know that Cody Leach feels this way. Speaking of Cody Leach, shout out to Cody Leach. I love you. But I do think that I don't think The Terminator is a slasher movie. I think it's a science fiction film. And that doesn't mean that there's not similarities to what a slasher villain would do. Well, but there's a girl that's being stalked by a guy I get all that. But I think for me, and it's just because I'm anal and I understand that I'm fucking anal this way, but to me, I like very defined things. And I just think that we live in a, and it's just my opinion, of course. I just use The Terminator as an example because, you see people saying, no, it's a slasher movie. Yes, it's science fiction, but it's also a hardcore slash. And it's like, okay, all right, fine. If that's how you feel, but you see people go, but Jaws is a slasher movie. I think, well, look, he's got bladed. His teeth are kind of sharp and he is kind of hunting. Jaws is a slasher. And I'm just like, guys. To me, words matter. Categories matter. And if we start bleeding everything into each other, just because you one day woke up and read some think piece from some guy online who had nothing better to do than kind of think, hey, Jaws is kind of like a slasher movie, doesn't mean it's a slasher movie, and I just think that the more we do that, the more we sort of forget what it really is, and like I've never watched Terminator and thought of it as a slasher movie. It's a science fiction movie.
Yeah.
It's always been science fiction to me. Now, again, that doesn't mean that, Cody, shout out to you, buddy, and others who feel the same way. I think that's great. I think that's totally great. But I think, and Terminator is like a lesser example of the examples I've seen, like Jaws is a slasher. I mean, that's just ridiculous, but there are people that will defend it, and it's like, it's no, it's not a slasher movie. Jaws is not a slasher. Well, technically, no, look up the definition of a slasher movie. And let's not try to fit a square peg into a round hole here, because that's what a lot of people try to do. Yeah. And I'm just like, just because it's somebody, it's cool. I guess they're bored, and they need to find some different way to love Jaws. Yeah, I've seen it 1,000 times. Oh, it's a slasher movie too. All of a sudden, I like Jaws even more now. And it's like, no, just fucking like Jaws. Jaws is it's a, I know people call it a horror movie. I get it. It's a thriller drama. I think at the end of the day, it's a thriller, it's a horror. Yeah. I get it. Yeah, for sure. But it's not a slasher movie. Jaws is not a slasher movie. But Aliens, I think Alien is more horror than Aliens. I think Aliens is more sci-fi. Yeah. But yeah, there's an argument to be made there for sure. But the Terminator thing, I'm just like, oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think with Aliens though, like you say, like Aliens stepped it up a notch. It's no longer this isolated ship in the middle of nowhere where no one can hear you scream. Whereas Aliens is all out action, sci-fi, loads of aliens. So you can tell the difference in the style and the tone.
Right. But exactly. Evil Alex says, sorry.
I was just going to say, if you're going to categorize it, you would generalize the categorization.
Correct. And I think that's, and again, maybe I'm old school, but Evil Alex says, Terminator is not straight action or sci-fi. It definitely has horror elements. It's a mix of stuff. And I agree with that, but here then lies the problem. You don't want to become a Netflix catalog, because when you go to Netflix, you'll find, the same movie in 10 different categories, and it's like, look, just because it has one line that is funny doesn't make it a fucking comedy, because it has some like a scene that is kind of eerie doesn't make it a horror movie, or, whatever the case is. And you see that, like, nothing frustrates. And I think Netflix does it to just fill out their catalog and make it look bigger than it actually is. Because I'm like, why the hell is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom in family? Like you're getting hearts getting, and it's in the family section. It's getting hearts getting ripped out and eating, monkey brains and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, or why is, I don't know, be like, why is, like, I would never, like, yes, Lethal Weapon, you could say, has some funny lines in it. There's some funny moments, but I would never classify Lethal Weapon as a comedy. It's an action movie. When you go into the video store back in the day, where would you find Lethal Weapon? You'd find it in the action section. Yeah. Right. And I think what happens is that we're starting to, I don't know if we're just bored as a society, but we're like, oh, it's kind of funny. And it's like, well, yeah, but that doesn't make it a comedy. You know what I mean? It doesn't make it a comedy. What's the plot? What's the meat of the film here? It's an action film. Yeah. And so I guess maybe I'm old school, but that's how I feel about it. So when I see these films, and again, not necessarily Alien, because I think there's an argument to be made there. And Terminator, like I said, okay. But some movies I'm just like, no, Netflix, this is not a comedy. Get this out of here. It's like Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls is action. It's like, no, it's not. It's not an action movie. Stop putting the same movie in 10 different categories. Anyways, sorry, I digress. I'm yapping.
No, that's fine. I think that's when you start to put the movies in the wrong categories. That's when you probably get complaints as well. If you got a kid who goes through the comedy section on their Netflix or whatever, and they come across, like, I don't know, the Goodfellas because there's comedy in it, they're like, right. Oh,
No, you're bang on. I've just because a movie has action elements, or just because there's an action scene, or just because there's a funny moment, or a scary moment, doesn't mean the movie is now an action adventure horror comedy sci-fi slasher. No, that's not what it means. It's not what it means, kids.
Anyway. Oh, there we go. Sorry. I don't know if you're still here, Cecil, but he was in
Oh
saying
yeah.
hello, gents. That was
Hey, Cecil.
if you're still here, hello. Well, we're talking about you.
Yeah, his ears will be ringing.
Yeah, and maybe that's why he's here. I got another super chat from the same guy, Eddie. He made a mistake. He said, "Thanks, meant worst final film ends Hell and Freddy's Dead." Yeah, I kind of knew what you meant there, Eddie.
I
That's
would say that, and I'll be honest, I'll say that Freddy's Dead and Jason Goes to Hell are far worse than Halloween Ends.
oh yeah, yeah. That's like I said, it's in the moment just now. I think once the
Yeah.
dust settles with Halloween Ends, people may
We'll
appreciate it
see.
more.
We'll see.
Well,
And by
time
the
will
way,
tell.
again, these are my opinions on how I feel about genres and if you disagree, that's fair. That's okay too. We can all be friends. We can all be friends.
Cynthia J says, "Isn't a slasher movie involved knives or anything they can use as a weapon?" Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but that.
So
There you go.
yeah, that's the official definition of a slasher movie is something about using bladed tools. So yeah, like a knife or something like generally speaking, right? And yes. And yeah, and it's really too why even like a film like Terrifier 2 really isn't a slasher movie. I understand why people call it a slasher movie. I get it. But there's another category called splatter. Now, you don't hear that category too often anymore because splatter films are usually not mainstream movies for obvious reasons. They were usually way back in the day, they were very exploitative, from the 70s and things like that. But there is a subcategory called splatter movies. And those are the movies that are about blood and guts and gore, and the more the better, and the all that stuff. There's a category for that, and it's called splatter. And Terrifier 2, really, if we're being specific, is really a splatter film.
Oh yeah,
Now that doesn't mean there's not slasher elements, but I think even Mike Flanagan actually categorized Terrifier 2 as like a mega slasher or something. I'm like, well, that's kind of cool. I could understand that. Maybe a mega slasher adds the splatter or something or whatever. But I just think terms are important. I think because if they start to all bleed into each other, then I don't know. It just feels messy to me. Maybe it's just, again, maybe I'm old school. I don't know. But I like things clearly defined. I don't like to see the same movie in 10 different categories on
yeah.
Netflix. It
No,
bothers
I'm
me. It bothers me.
we've got Sebastian asking, splatter films are like Saw and Hostel. Well, I would see them as kind of torture porn if you're going to subcategorize it. But yeah,
Yeah, I wouldn't. He's on the right track. I wouldn't say Hostel and Saw were splatter films, but I understand why you would say that. They're definitely torture porn for sure. Yeah, I'll have to look up, or maybe people can do it. You look up some splatter movies from the 70s, the low budget B or C or even D horror movies that are splatter films. It's very obvious when you watch a splatter
yeah.
movie.
I watched Saw recently, and surprisingly, there's not that much gore in the first Saw movie, so it's
No,
definitely not splatter.
no,
Absolutely not.
it's more about just that in your head, you're like, oh my God, you know, I'm gonna have to saw off my leg to get
Yeah.
out of it. Like just the psychological aspect of that. Like, how do you work yourself up to that?
Here's a good question for you, Dave. Oh, what is it? Oh, what is it? Yeah. What would you call It's Me, Billy?
What would I
What?
call It's Me, Billy? Oh, that's a good question. I would call It's Me, Billy probably it's not a slasher film. I wouldn't even call the original Black Christmas a slasher movie. I understand why Halloween, the original Halloween, I understand why it's in that category, but it's very tame in comparison to nowadays. It's Me, Billy would be, I mean, I guess people would lump it in with the original Black Christmas, which often gets the title, the first slash movie, whatever. But it's just being used in that way loosely. If you want to get technical, It's Me, Billy is probably more like a thriller drama, I would say, because the first half of It's Me, Billy is more drama because we're being reintroduced to the characters. You're getting to know them. You're getting to know a little bit about what's been going on the last 50 or so years, and then there's that change, which is really kind of the dinner table scene where things start to get darker, and then we get into like a horror film. So maybe like a horror drama, maybe, or something like that. But I wouldn't call it's not a slasher movie or anything like that.
Yeah, because you don't have, obviously, there wasn't even wasn't a high body count in the original, was there? For it to be,
Well, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, there's probably about 5 or 6 people, I think.
that's more than
But again, it's because what a slasher is has evolved over the years. And, Billy used, obviously, the bag over the head, the glass unicorn. So he's using a sharp object. Billy in our film used the letter opener to stab Justine. So that's a bladed tool, I guess, for all intents and purposes. But I think when people think of slasher movies, they think of like, the 80s modern slasher, where it's like, the Friday the 13th, the Elm Streets, the later Halloween films. Because you see blood, you see the blade, the knife, and it's very obvious what it is. Black Christmas, I understand why it's lumped into the category, and you could put Billy in there if you wanted to, I guess, but it's technically it's not, not by definition anyway.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. So we're coming to the end of it, guys. I was planning on doing a 2-hour thing, and we just went kind of over that anyway, so it's
That's
absolutely
okay.
fine. Is that okay?
Yeah, I talk a lot, so.
No, that's the reason why you spoke 10 minutes longer than I thought. But it was, just to wrap it all up, though, Dave, it was an absolute pleasure having you on. I actually do feel like I've learned a little bit more about the filmmaking process, the
Cool.
effort, the effort it takes to go in to do not just the small ones or the big ones, but any type of film, because it doesn't matter what size of budget you've got. A film's a film at the end of the day. You still need the same specific type of crew to make a short fan film or a Hollywood blockbuster. So it was really good insight from you, Dave. If there's anything you want to add to it just now, then by all means.
Look, I appreciate you having me on. This has been a long time in the making. Obviously, I'm glad we were able to, coordinate our schedules so we could make it happen. Obviously, you're 5 hours ahead. I'm 5 hours behind. It's about 4:15 here now, so it's got to be about 9:15 where you are. And no, I'm glad to help. I mean, listen, I'm not the world's foremost expert. Obviously, I in terms of filmmaking, my experience is limited, but I think because I'm a very inquisitive person and I've been working in the entertainment industry a long time, I'm always trying to associate myself with people that know a lot more than I do, and so anytime I can help and answer anything, I'd be more than happy to. I think. But I think you're right. I think it comes down to you never want to bite off more than you can chew, at least when you're first starting. That's the most important thing, because because making movies is so hard, you don't want to be overwhelmed by the process. You want to be excited by the process. And this piece of advice I'll end with, because I think this is really important, something that I learned that you kind of know, but I actually saw it play out with Billy, and it was just a confirmation on how important this is. Now, obviously, not every film set's going to be like this. The bigger the budget, the more the crew, the more the actors, the more the logistics, things get more complicated and egos come in and all that kind of stuff. But It's Me, Billy was a great experience for me as a first-time filmmaker on that level, because I was working with my buddy, which was great. We've known each other for 30 years, but we were as prepared as we possibly could be. So I say this to you, I say it to any indie filmmaker, aspiring, whatever. Be as prepared as you possibly can. If you are, now listen, if you're just shooting with your buddies on a weekend in your backyard, whatever, not a big deal. But if you want to make a real movie, and you're hiring actors and you're hiring crew and you have people that are depending on you, you've got to be as prepared as you possibly can, because, don't figure out how you're going to shoot the movie when you show up on set. You need to know already how you're going to shoot the movie, where you're going to place the camera, what's going to happen. We spent 2.5 months on our shot list.
Mm-hmm.
And so we location scouted. So we went up to that house twice and walked through with our DP and our gaffer and our key grip. Where are the outlets? Where's this? Where's that? We know so that when we get there, we're not wasting any time. We are as prepared as we possibly can. We know where the camera's going to go.
Oh, you're away again, Dave. You'll be back.
We know, oh, okay. Am I back?
You're back. You're back. Sorry. Yeah.
I'm back. Okay. I can see myself freezing on the other screen. That's so.
It's only for 2-3 seconds and then you're back.
Yeah, that's so weird. That's so weird. Yeah, but be as prepared as you possibly can is so important because, yeah. So I forget what I was saying when I froze, but to backtrack a second, yeah, you don't want to show up on set and then figure out how to shoot.
Yeah.
You want to know. So you want to have a shot list. You want to have, because even on small shoots, shit's going to happen. Things are going to happen. Something's going to happen that you didn't see or you didn't, you weren't prepared for.
Mm-hmm.
Something's going to break or a bulb's going to go out or a switch isn't going to, whatever. And the more prepared that you are, the more prepared you are to handle that with professionalism and ease. If you are unprepared for the shoot in general or half prepared for the shoot, then when the inevitable little thing that pops up, it's going to make it feel that much bigger, that much more, you know what I mean? Frustrating because you're so unprepared with everything else. And so I say that, and listen, I know that, things are easier said than done, but also the more prepared you are, if you're working with a crew and a cast, they're counting on you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And, if you need that extra hour, God, we've been shooting for 12 hours now. That's a 12-hour day. We just need that extra hour just to get this done. Obviously, I don't want to speak for all crew and cast. A crew and cast can say, nope, it's 12 hours. Too bad. They could say that. But the more prepared you are, the more that you treat people with dignity and respect, and you treat them well, you feed them well, you house them well, the more likely they are to fight for you. The more, because they want it to be good too. They're not just going through the motions. They're excited because they see you're excited. They see that they're taken care of. You're prepared. You're not sitting there and going, I don't know. You know what I mean? And so when it comes to that time where you just need that extra 15 minutes or that extra half hour or whatever it is, they're more likely to go, don't worry about it. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. We're here. Let's just do it. Let's get this. Let's get this. Do you know what I'm saying? Because they feel acknowledged. They feel respected. So I just want to say that, again, if you're an indie filmmaker and you're making these low budget shoots, be prepared as you possibly can. Know how you're going to shoot it, what you're going to shoot, everything, because then you're prepared for all the little mishaps that pop up that you didn't see.
Yeah, that's great advice. And that's the kind of advice I was looking for throughout the live stream. So it's great insight from someone who's done it, who's been there, done it, and not only just done the fan films that I'm wanting to do, but progressed from there. So it's always best to get some ideas and insight from someone who's done it, who's moving forward with their projects as well. So it's really,
I appreciate that. Yeah. Well, hey, like I said, and it's not easy. It's a lot of hard work, but also surround yourself with the right people. That's the half the battle of success is surrounding yourself with the right people.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. So just to finish off then, guys, if you don't know Dave, I'll leave a link to his channel down below. But Dave, if you want to tell the guys where they can find you on your socials, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter. I can see it going by there at the bottom. There it is. Twitter at The Voice Man. Man has 2 N's for no other reason than my website, thevoiceman.com with 1 N was taken. So I just added an extra N. There's nothing fancy about that. So Twitter at The Voice Man. On Instagram, I'm Dave McRae 79, which is the year I was born. Dave McRae 79. And then on Facebook, it's Many Things Dave McRae. I do have a personal Facebook page, but that's just for, people that I meet, whatever. It's not for YouTube. So my Facebook page, and I'm hardly ever posting on my personal page anyway. So if you want to know what I'm up to and you want to follow me at Many Things Dave McRae on Facebook, and then YouTube, I think it's just Dave McRae. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Excellent. So anyway, guys, thanks a lot for joining the chat. Thanks for all the comments, the questions, and also the super chats that came in as well. Much appreciated. It helps the channel out very much. And thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.